The holidays are a time of giving. So I am giving these books a new home. I don't think that's how it works. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today we are going to go through some of the books that have come off my shelves so that I can make space for new ones. Some of them are going to go to my local library here in Berlin. Some of them are going to go to a street library kind of near to where I live. Some of them are going to go back to my parents' house, either so that I can just keep them or so that my dad can also enjoy them. There's quite a big stack. I have kind of been a little bit ruthless this time and gone through stuff I'm not going to read, stuff I'm not going to read again. Let's take a look at where we're going. First one up is a little bit of a surprising one, but it is Matilda by Roald Dahl. This is a German copy of the book, and I know that it's one that I'm not going to read again, but it's also one that I don't really want to get rid of properly. So this is one that is going to go and live at my parents' house in my bookshelf over there. Next up is the first book of the Crazy Rich Asians series by Kevin Kwan. I really enjoyed this book. I utterly loved it, especially as someone who has already been to Singapore. It was really nice to walk around Singapore through the pages of this book, but it is just one that I'm never going to read again. If I do want to read it again, I can find a Kindle copy, or I can get an audiobook of it, or I could probably get it from my local library. But it's just not one that I'm going to reach for anytime soon. Next up are two books by Sandy and Menon. There's Something About Sweetie and 10 Things I Hate About Pinky. I don't tend to reach for YA anymore. I think my YA time is over. I'm in my 30s now. I'm kind of leaning a lot more towards adult contemporary romances. These are really sweet books. I have already read the When Dippa Met Rishi book, which is the first book of these series. But I just know that these aren't going to be ones that I'm going to reach for anytime soon. And again, if I do want to read them, there's probably audiobooks available. There's probably library books available. And I think this is where these two are going to go. Next up is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I read this in October when it was like the perfect thriller time, and I absolutely adored this, especially because there is a character called Aoife in the books, and that doesn't happen quite a lot. This is actually my dad's book, so that is the specific reason that it is going back to my parents' house. But even if it wasn't, I think it would have gone back to my parents' house anyway, because I would probably read it again. Even though I know who the killer is and I know who the killed person was, I would love to go back and just see if I can pick up on little kind of hints or things that should have made it a little bit more obvious. Next is another YA book, and it's What I Like About Me by Jenna Guillaume. Jenna's an Australian author. She used to work at BuzzFeed, and I think that this is the main reason that I wanted to read this book. But I got it for my birthday in 2020. It is now 2022, so that's 2.5 years later even. And I've never reached for this. So I think, as I said, my YA days are over and it's probably time to give this the home that it deserves. Another YA book that, again, I just know I'm not going to pick up is One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus. I do love thriller books, and I was really enamored by the first book, One of Us Is Lying, but I haven't really felt the need to go for this one anytime soon. And even when Michelle from Michelle's Library told me that she really enjoyed this, I was almost trying to find reasons not to pick it up, so I don't think that that's a good sign for me to get to this one. Next up is a proof that I was sent for the Adulting Manual by Millie Smith. This is really heavily illustrated. It's got really quirky and funky pictures, and I think it would be great in maybe a school library or the local library, but in the library of a 30-year-old actual legal adult, probably not the best place for this one to live. Next up is more YA, and that is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I have read 2 of her books already and I've absolutely loved them. And I know that this one is written in poetry form rather than in prose, which is another aspect of her books that I really enjoy. But again, I've never really reached out for it, and I have had it on my shelf for quite some time. So I do think if I want to read it again, there's probably an audiobook available, or a Kindle deal will come up, or I can just borrow it from a friend or the library, but I just think somebody out there is going to want to read it. Next up is one that I did read, and that is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, and I genuinely really enjoyed this. It was a little bit different than how I was expecting. I think I thought it would be like a straight through contemporary romance, sapphic vibes, but it's much more of a coming of age book. It's much more about our main character, Grace, finding out who she is in the world, coming into the world of work after having been an academic for such a long time and having finished her PhD, and also having gotten married to someone that she met in Las Vegas probably about 12 hours before the wedding, and figuring out where they fit into each other's lives. It is a really great book and I did really enjoy it, but it's just not one that I'm going to pick up again. I think BookTube might cancel me for this one, but I am also going to get rid of Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This one hit my 3 strikes rule. If I have tried a book 3 times and I keep DNFing it, it has to go. I cannot keep a book around that I know I'm not going to read or I'm not enjoying and I'm not going to go and pick up. I did study Hamlet when I was in secondary school. I did it for my Leaving Cert English course. So I thought that that would be a reason that I'd really enjoy Hamlet, but I just could not connect to this book at all. And I never really found myself reaching for it, so when that happens, it's kind of a bad sign. Next is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I did really enjoy this book. It's a translated Japanese fiction about a young woman who's in her mid to late 30s but has worked at the same convenience store for the entirety of her adult life. And then things start to happen and to change in her world when new employees come in and try to shake things up for her. I really enjoyed this. I don't think I'm going to reach for it again, and it's pretty short, so somebody out there is probably going to get through it in a day, no problem. Next are 2 books by the same author. The author is Jonas Jonasson, and the 2 books are The Girl Who Saved the King of Sweden and The 100-Year-Old Man Who Jumped Out the Window and Disappeared. The titles are really catchy. They might be a little bit long, but they are quite intriguing and you kind of want to know what's happening. But when I got into the actual meat and bones of the book, I found that I didn't really care what was happening to any of the people in these books. So I think it might just be time to say goodbye. Next up is another short book, Men Explain Things to Be by Rebecca Solnit. This is a collection of feminist essays that I did really enjoy, but I'm just not going to go back to it anytime soon. I think I've gotten everything that I need to get or I would get out of this book. And there's probably someone out there who is starting on their journey of discovering feminism and learning about it and how it can shape their lives and their experiences, and this will be a great pickup for them. Another YA book that is coming off my shelves is Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. I loved this. Again, like The Poet X, this is written in poetry form rather than in prose, and I absolutely loved that delivery, but I also do think that it would be a shame for me to keep it if there is somebody out there with the same identities as Michael in this book, who is gay, who is black, who is an immigrant, who is young, and they might really get a lot out of this book from seeing somebody who's in the same exact situations and has the same experiences as them. I wouldn't want to keep that out of their hands. Then to round it off, 2 more books by the same author again, and this time the author is Tessa Bailey. I am getting rid of My Killer Vacation and Hook, Line and Sinker. I didn't enjoy either of them as much as I had enjoyed It Happened One Summer. My Killer Vacation was the group book for Rom-Com-a-thon back in August, and I think the general consensus was that that book was an entire trip. I don't even know if someone out there is going to enjoy these books, but I know that I'm not going to. I know that I'm not going to pick up with them again. Somebody might get more out of these. That entire pile is going to be leaving my house in the next 24 to 48 hours. Are there any books on there that you had enjoyed, or are there any books that you kind of wish I had saved? Or what books have you gotten rid of recently? If you would like to leave a comment but you cannot think of anything that you would like to say, then just leave one of the wave emojis. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.